Here we are, back again for episode 18 of Natty Muscle Radio with myself, Bob Waterhouse, and my co-host,
A.A. Ron Bevan. Welcome.
There you go, flawless.
Welcome. That was the best intro in 18 intros.
18 years.
Yeah. It took us 18 years to do this podcast.
Oh, good one, good one. How are you anyway?
I'm really good. Don't mind me. I'm just...
Nice. That looks familiar.
Whoa!
Can you do it by holding that to the voice box and speak for the whole podcast?
I feel like if I did that, I might punch me Adam's apple. That's quite a... You're not daring me to do that live because that's not...
No, well, Claire thought it would be a good idea the weekend I got it to test it out on the back of my head. I was like, why would you do that? And two Aussie friends just sat there pissing themselves laughing because she just literally just put the hardcore attachment on it and then just hammered me in the back of the head with it. So,
well, this episode is not sponsored by Recover Pro, but thanks for borrowing me that because I'm going to be the most recovered man in natural bodybuilding this week, so thank you.
No problem at all. Any news, any gossip?
Any gossip?
Mm.
Our gyms are open if you didn't know.
Are they?
I don't know if you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very eventful, but very nice. I did actually help one of the local gyms, Strode Fitness Centre, get pre-prepared, as Ronnie Coleman would say, for the opening of the gym on the Saturday. So they left a load of stuff till last minute, just odd jobs to get finished.
Yeah.
So I had, because I've been training legs there for the last 6 weeks, every week, just legs, on a Monday, I thought it would be a nice thank you to do some cleaning and stuff. So I had my marigolds out and all the antibacterial, antivirus, anti-gym chalk, antivirus gym chalk. Yeah. Which is actually a thing.
Yeah, I know.
Gym Unity $7.99 a bottle.
Yeah.
Just saying.
No virus for us today with our...
Virus for us and so much grip.
So grip, so antivirus.
Liquid gym chalks, one of them things, it's that for years I always said, nah, nothing beats a real thing. Nothing beats normal gym chalk. But normal gym chalk is very messy. So from working in gym, I can understand why gym owners get a bit pissed off. Yeah. Especially when someone's going to do a 2-plate deadlift and then clap their hands with chalk before. Yeah. So, but I didn't know for years from why I thought gym chalk was so rubbish because I wasn't using it right. Basically, it was just rubbing it into my hands.
Yeah. And
then continually rubbing until it's supposed to dry out. But actually, if you just let it dry, then it's great. So yeah, you have to do the Polish warm-ups. There's this one.
Okay.
And this one.
Yeah.
And this one.
But the trick is just to use chalk all the time and not just on your last set of deadlifts or something like that. That's the pro tip.
Absolutely. I'm sure you actually stole that one today, didn't you? You thought, I like a look at
that. Yeah. Also, shout out to Reese at Shreds for letting us train today. That was a wicked chest session. Although there was a point, as I described, when I was doing a strip set for you, it's got the fanciest new Rogue plates. They're clean and they're so shiny, and the chalk had come off my hands, and I couldn't strip the plate weight for you.
They are some nice looking plates.
Oh yes,
aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
I think they're almost like Emporium prices. They're like £6-7 a kilo.
Really?
Because they
almost.
Everyone gets that Emporium joke, by the way. I'm not sure if they did, but
almost Emporium prices, not
£12 mortgage per kilo.
Yeah.
So they made the news this week, didn't they? They made the social media news. Let's not obviously, because I do like Emporium Gym.
Yeah.
And so let's not go throwing them under the bus. But how should we say, they're a little bit greedy with some of their members who've been paying memberships all the way through the break. And then to reward them, they decided that charging them an extra £10 a session would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And that lasted all of a week before they repented and went, "Oh, we're sorry. It's been a month. Come back."
I actually only learnt about this like the day before that they made the post repenting. I didn't realise it had gone that long.
It was pure classic comedy from the comments.
Yeah.
"You're a joke." Just people getting so irate.
Oh, yeah.
People on there saying, "I wouldn't use it if it's free." Yeah, you would.
You would definitely use it as free.
Definitely would. Oh, just out of principles.
Mm.
Principal Skinners.
But wicked chest session then, anyway.
I've been cramping all afternoon, actually.
Yeah. I did back with machines for the first time in 4 months yesterday, and then chest with machines today, and all the weight, and I can't really do this, like any movement now, because it's that sore. That's sore.
Sweet.
All sore. So how many pectors this weekend, do you think?
What's that?
How many pectors occurred this weekend?
Oh, yeah, quite a few pectors. I even told some of my clients off this week because I get my clients to send me training videos every week.
Yeah.
I request homework for them to send me stuff. Don't look at the form, look at their intensity over the sessions. And some of my clients, not mentioning any names, Pete Garay.
Oh, no.
1 rep maxes. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, well, I was feeling pretty good on deadlifts, so I thought it'd be a good idea just to, pull some 1 rep maxes. And I'm like, yeah, probably not a good idea when you've been using nothing but bands.
Well, when you say nothing but bands,
yeah.
When it was Pete, like, if anyone hasn't seen Pete Garay's training videos, you say nothing but bands, you might think, oh, he's got a band or two. If you've not been able to buy bands from a store or an online store, it's because Pete has them all.
Yep.
And he's attached them to every single exercise he does.
And to be fair, he did even upload or send me one several weeks ago of him doing a 1 rep incline dumbbell max with bands, which is that green horrible band, which is, I don't know what I can compare it to in thickness. I don't know what a good analogy is for the time being.
I guess the actual band, it must be like, what is it, 2.5 inches width, maybe at least.
And it's like that thick.
Yeah.
So like when you can't do a lateral raise, I can. If you, as I said, I'm sure I said it on the podcast the other week on the podcast.
On the cast.
But it's the equivalent of when you put it round your body and then like stand on it. It's equivalent of like a 60 kilo squat.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous for like rubber.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. So anyway, the point being, don't go back to the gym and do 1 rep maxes.
No. Unless
you've been training 1 rep maxes in the break. And if you're 10 weeks out from a bodybuilding show, definitely don't do them either.
Just don't do them anyway.
Just don't do it. I don't think Vicky has provided a trophy for the strongest lightweight natural bodybuilder of the season.
No.
And there probably won't be an award for that. Might be a best legs award.
Yeah.
But there definitely isn't that award. So don't be doing 1 rep maxes, Peter Garay.
I fell into that trap. And
go train with Pete then.
All right. We're going to train Pete, all the bands. I fell into that trap, but I won't be doing it anymore. And I think the old arm injury, which is better now, definitely kind of proved that. So speaking of good training, shout out to Chris Edge with his 155 squat for 5 the other day. Yeah.
More than me, definitely.
Oh yeah, he's fucking blasting it. Below parallel.
Talking about 1 rep maxes though, we're not talking off season. We're talking competition prep and then getting back to the gym. So people will go, well, you've been doing 1 rep maxes, yeah, but they have their place in a strength program for sure. Especially if you're based in like a 5-3-1.
Yeah.
I was talked about program on this podcast. Because then you have to set your max level, so you need to kind of find them out. So that's relative. But probably if there was any advice I was going to give you to not go and do when you get back to the gym after 4 months of just using bands, probably wouldn't be a 1 rep max though. Just saying.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. I'm glad we cleared that up the weekend after gyms open, so that everyone's gone and blown a tech, slip discs and ruptured quads because they've just tried to do all that. So unlucky. I also feel like we've come, maybe not full circle, maybe semi-circle, because I'm pretty sure at least episode 1 of Natty Muscle Radio, we were talking about, well, this virus maybe, but still train and still get ready for your shows because the gyms are open still at this point. And then very quickly that changed. So 18 episodes of podcasts have happened, and gyms. We've been here for you. We've been here for all our 3 fans, or our 86 subscribers actually. Big deal. Yeah. For the whole 4 months. So you're welcome.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, do us a favor, press the little subscribe button, put the notification bells on, and like this video because you're genuinely just a good human. Yes.
Well, we get over 100 views a week.
That's 20 people.
It's 20 people not subscribing.
So how many of them are like 20 hate people then that just watch, trying to find stuff to argue with us about?
Yeah, but come on, even if you're a hater and you don't like it, just subscribe at least, because then you'll know. I'll take a trade-off between subscribe and then give us a dislike weekly. Fine, it's not a big deal. I'll take the subscription over that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. So there was a point to that story. I can't remember what were you talking about?
I was just saying we've been here for you the entire time, gyms.
Yeah. I've lost like 3 pounds in that 18 weeks, so I've done really well.
You've lost 3 pounds. You lost 3 pounds this week. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It was good prep week this week.
Yeah.
So lots of work to do, but it's a little bit further to the end of the light through the tunnel, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe we can mention then. There's been some changes to shows and a few things coming up, right?
Yeah, and because I lost 3 pounds, pint of Tetley's.
Straight back on. This is your once a week.
Gozdecki prep life.
The Gozdecki protocol. The 6 hour. You're looking very good, by the way. I thought your face is looking very good.
Face looked good. That's what my mum would say after the show.
You look good and handsome.
Nice. So
yeah, you look very good. The Gozdecki 6 hours sleep and beer protocol. Considering he's probably my favourite natural bodybuilder of all time, probably going to get on it. So nice one.
So if anyone hasn't watched the AJ Morris podcast, which was actually a good watch with Gozdecki, but just for pure comedy value of Gozdecki drinking a beer during the podcast. Because bodybuilding. So
how many people would think we were tuning into that thinking they were going to get some absolute science bombshells, like real tidbits, and they learned that actually probably just chill out a bit and you'll be a lot better.
Yeah, it's probably good advice. We did one on sleep last week with loads of really good stuff, and he just said sleep faster, so I'll just do that instead. So cheers, Rich Gozdecki. I still love my best favorite video of Richard Gozdecki is him topless in a pub drinking a yard of ale in like 20 seconds. So the key is you have to spin it as you're drinking it, otherwise it glugs. And then
that was they're the knowledge bombshells you need to tune in for then. For things like that.
Exactly, yeah. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the guys from the workout meal. It's definitely a Christmas party never to go to.
Right, I've trained there a couple of times. I love the gym.
If you can't drink like a fish.
No, I can't.
Max O'Connor and a couple of other guys there, and yes, they like skull beers, like, you know, strawpedo them and stuff. Like, is one of Max O'Connor's brother, who's been on MTV and stuff. Strawpedo.
Rogan.
Yeah. The strawpedo in a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Wow. Okay.
Not for me. Not for me. I'll stay away from the Christmas party.
It's great though, isn't it? Because like Rich and Max, like synonymous with UK bodybuilding. You know, and obviously they're big. Like ambassadors work with USN. I don't know what the right term is, but their balance of life and bodybuilding is the absolute best you can get, I think. You know, because you see these guys doing that, you know, out on the piss. You know, you don't see them keeping it super tight in the off season. You know, they enjoy the food and they enjoy the life and things like that. But they're some of the best in the world, because when it comes to it, they actually do it. You know, they really do what they need to do and can separate both.
Both train very, very hard. I know that. They spoke about the podcast how like he's just super high volume and like he just like, you know, you would hate it, like 15 rep sets of everything.
I'm okay when I'm not fat.
So that was a good watch. So another plug for another podcast, I guess. But yeah, go over and watch that one if you. Gosdecki is a good guy to watch. Anyway, one of the old schools, so it's good.
Yep.
What else? So shows. Go on, kick us off.
So I guess the big news this week is that BNBF confirmed that they're going to postpone the Open British Finals to either the 24th of October or the 1st of November, I believe.
What would be more beneficial, do you think?
For me?
For you, or just in your opinion, or?
Okay.
The 24th clash with anything else? It doesn't, does it?
I believe is UK the FBA Finals not the week before?
Yes.
So I guess it depends your opinion and preference on competing week by week, or whether you prefer a few weeks in between. So I spoke to a few guys, a few of our friends that are doing BNBF British Finals, and now they're looking at, you know, maybe doing MPA as well, UK the FBA, and, you know, doing shows leading up to BNBF British Finals. But it would depend on, I guess, when the date is, because you know, some of the guys are not too sure whether they want to compete the week before British Finals for BNBF, do UK the FBA, or whether you know, it's better if it's a couple of weeks. So what do you think from a coach? You know, like.
Good question. I don't think it matters. I would say if you've got 2 weeks, you can get away with a small meal on the Sunday after the show. So there's that argument. Other than that, I mean, most clients, if I was going to give them advice, if they were doing a show a week apart, they wouldn't be eating after the show, unfortunately. So maybe I would let them in a 2 week distance, depending on how good they look, obviously. Yeah. That's the main thing. It's not me just rewarding people for getting, you know, but it is a massive part of going out for some food after the show, but it's not very important if you're competing the week after and you want to do better. I mean, if you're absolutely peeled to the bone, you're not, you know, like hard as nails, going out for, you know, like a clean cheat, if you like, if that's even, you know, a word for the bros. Like you might go out and have a steak and potato for, you know, steak and chips or something. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But as you said, it's definitely food for thought for, depending on what you look like, and doing 2 shows on the bus. I know for people, if you are a advocate of doing a depletion load, the 2 weeks would definitely be better to have some normality for a week. It's quite hard on the body doing that, especially the way that, you know, I've sort of depleted and loaded in the past. Like eating 20 kilos of potatoes over 2 or 3 days is not that fun for your stomach. So
Especially if you're going to do any sort of any water manipulation or anything like that as well. You know, that's not something that is easy to recover from quickly. Typically, if you do try and dehydrate for a show, you'll have some kind of rebound of retaining water for a period afterwards, whether it's a couple of days or not. You know,
how good is the post-show food for one? I did actually do a post this week of being in Somnia. Not sure if you noticed, but my arm was kind of huge. So, quiet face.
Yeah.
But anyway, the moral of that story was, it's just like, it's, as we said before on this podcast, of how hard it is to replicate like that look the next day. It always look wicked because it's just so full of sodium as well. But you know, that just the best, the meal afterwards, but then also just the look for like 2 days after the show.
Is that the best? Is that the best photo shoot day? Would you recommend?
Yeah, I think so, because it's still got a bit of like, you know, Jan Tanner on. After the show. That always used to be a thing, didn't it? But yeah, that's when a lot of the like the muscular development and Flex magazine shoots were always the day after the show.
Yeah.
I think there's only 1 year where I've looked terrible the day after the show.
Okay.
Because I went to town. I didn't stop eating, so I woke up fat the day after the show.
I have to say I wasn't that far off that this year. I actually went. So I can't remember whether it might have been like a week or two after British finals last year. I went to work for 2 weeks in Qatar, or was it a week? I went to work in Qatar and come back, and Cara was like, "So you're off season then, yeah?" Like you are. Oh yeah, all the water, all the games.
Oh, it is such an array of emotions, isn't it? You're like, as I said, you almost have to get to the point where your abs completely go and you're not bothered anymore. But at first, it's like, oh, they kind of look all right still. If I just maybe chill on the food for a day, and then they kind of look a bit better, and then you just, yeah, they're gone.
They don't get any better. You restrict the damage. They don't get any better. They stop getting progressively worse, and you hold back a bit, and you're like, oh, and then you go, oh, we're about to not eat for like 30 minutes to do that. And I want it to be a conveyor belt of food in my mouth.
Exactly. Just keep it up. Yeah, I wonder what it'd be like to have abs all year round. That's a funny one. Maybe I'll get some people to put some comments below, like David Kay and Chris Paling and stuff. Like, yeah,
do you reckon Dave, Chris, anybody else that has abs all year, do you reckon they look at me and you and think, I wonder what it's like to have an ab all year round?
They must do. They must just be like, oh, I wonder how uncomfortable it is for you to put on socks.
Yeah, no, uncomfortable is to tie your laces and to sit in chairs.
Out of your Ottomex boots because you like to wear them like wired in.
Yeah,
like
surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. If you want to find out, just contact you for an off-season plan.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Well, they say, do as I say, not do as I do.
Yeah.
So, shows, back to the point in hand then. So, yes, I think that the 1st of November probably suits better to give people an extra week, because it's also then a week of reflection in the gym to get back to some, a few workouts and everything.
Yeah. Because
peak week workouts suck as well if you're doing the push and load. Some people just like to train all the way through, but I always like to train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then show on Sunday. The UKFDA show clashes with the new Natty 2 Bros show. So I will be interested to see, both being open finals with no qualification, how that's affected. Whether people who were going to do the UKFDA do that and vice versa. Because I would probably say that because the UKFDA are more established, if you like, that's going to be more of what the people are going to do. Yeah. However, you have got the pro card route or the IFBB pro card for the overall winner of that show. So I don't know. I think it's just the overall. Maybe it's some classes. I don't know. So
interesting one, isn't it? Because like you say, it's across natural bodybuilding. The UK DFBA is far more established, like you said, than this new Two Bros show.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to be following Two Bros, and that's that side of even assisted bodybuilding. And not everyone that competes in natural bodybuilding does that. You know, not everybody is a massive bodybuilding bro like you and I. You know, we've got friends that just only know some natural bodybuilders and that's it. You know, they don't really watch bodybuilding outside. So I wonder how much of a knowledge of it they'd have. You know, so there is that element. But then, like you say, it's a massive opportunity. You know, and it's interesting what Two Bros are doing with offering a pro card at natural shows. You know, it's a good way. You know, we've said for a while we've wanted this kind of natural Olympia. You know, see if we can get people to come from different federations and to compete together. I think we said a few episodes back that this is probably the best way to do it because it's not governed by one of the federations in the UK. It's kind of like neutral. So that might be the best way to see everyone compete. You know, it'd be great to see yourself and Dave go up against Rich and Sam Watt and, you know, people like that. Would be incredible. And maybe it's we'll get it, you know, at some point in the next few years.
Hopefully not in a yard of ale drinking contest. Won't win.
Depends.
So yeah, I think the only thing which will, how should we say, determine the success of that to a certain point is how well it's tested.
Yeah.
Because that's been, everyone said it, but no one really knows yet. They've not really put much info about that because I, for one, if you're going to put a drug tested show up, then of course it needs to be drug tested like all the others are.
Mm-hmm.
But if they go there and then everyone says, "Oh, we weren't drug tested; it's supposed to be natural," and then the winners end up looking like, you know, 20-stone bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a bit of a shit on the natural bodybuilding, you know, for what it's supposed to be. So I think that's the only thing that we just don't know yet. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and I'm not really assuming it's one way or another, but everyone I've spoke to are like, "Oh, you're going to do that new show?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think that would be a good one to do, actually." Or other people have said, "Yeah, I'd like to do that." And then everyone's gone, "Yeah, but is it natural?" You know, you've got that question mark at the start because it's not established. And that's why I said, well, people maybe would do UKFDA because they know that they're not just going to go there and, like, you know, we did one, I think it was the OCB show, at Worlds 2009. And I know that their drug list was very sketchy compared to the UK.
Mm.
I'm not sure if they're even still running the OCB anymore. They might do.
Don't know, actually. Yeah, I'll find out.
But I believe, and don't quote me on this because I don't know the actual facts, but like even like pro hormones weren't banned.
Mm.
It's like, well, that's not a natty fed.
Yeah.
But you know, that's like, oh well, this is what we allow and this is what we don't allow. Yeah. It was like 3 years clean, or like you have to be clean for a summer. So
that's the problem, isn't it? And I think that's been one of the problems with having a sort of Olympia, if you want to, you know, it's the best way to describe it, is the different methods of drug testing, the different kind of, you know, the different rules on certain substances. And I guess if anyone wants it to ever happen, there just have to be an acceptance that it's going to be more strict than a fed. It's going to be less strict than another fed. It's going to be tested in a different way.
Yeah.
And if
what do you think? Where do you stand on like what should be like to be allowed as a natural bodybuilding show? Like how many years are you talking?
I honestly don't have an opinion on it, and what I mean by that is federations set the rules. So I believe the NPA is lifetime drug-free, yeah, and we know that BNBF is 7 years. And then on top of that, you have your banned in competition, out of competition. So certain stimulants and things like that you can, if anyone doesn't know what in and out of competition is, firstly, if you're on Facebook, join the BNBF DFAC banned substances group with David J, because that guy puts time into that to ensure that everybody doesn't fail a drugs test by accident. So do that for a start. But people have different opinions on that, right? We've got friends that compete in the BNBF, and even though the rules in the BNBF are the certain substances which are banned out of competition, in competition, you have to stop using at this particular date, and then you're okay. But some people won't do that because the moral is that they don't want to. They consider that not natural. Also, for me, it's whatever federation you're choosing to compete with, you adhere to those rules, and by competing with that federation, you accept that those are the rules. So I don't have an opinion on whether it's 7, 8, or 0. How many years? So for me, I choose to compete with the BNBF, and so if they say 7 years and they say in-out competition, all these different things, that's what I adhere by. If someone competes in somewhere like the NPA and they believe that natural bodybuilding is you can't use things from in or out of competition and it's 0 years, then that's the same. For me, there's no moral opinion on it.
Okay.
You?
Not skirting around the answer, but yeah, fine.
No, I don't. I mean, I guess it comes down to as well we always wanted this podcast to not be on a natty high horse, and I think we've done that because we like to talk about all things in bodybuilding. We talk about, when we're talking about sleep or we talk about training, it's not to do with what natural bodybuilders should do. It's just what bodybuilders should do.
Okay. Let me rephrase the question for you then. How long do you think that you need to be drug-free for steroids not to have had an effect on your physique?
Okay. Well, wow. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a genetic component to it, I think, isn't there?
Yeah.
But that's why I think like 7 years is good. 10 years is better. Lifetime's great, but the problem is with lifetime is that it doesn't give people who I've spoke to about wanted to compete before, and they stupidly, when they're 18, was in a gym where guys were just knowingly taking stuff from whatever it was, and then basically took one bottle of something,
right?
Therefore they then, or even a banned pre-workout or whatever it might be, and then realize that I now can't compete with that, even though I didn't get anything from it, and therefore I now can't compete with that federation ever. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where I stand. And I think that if someone has clearly had an advantage from it, where they obviously still look, it's hard. It's really hard to stay in it because it's I think you get over a certain period of time, and therefore any foundation that you'd kind of built off anything really is not going to be still really current. But over a period of time, 3 years, yes. For 7, 10 years, I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know actually, and perhaps we get an answer from Vic and Guy that perhaps 7 years has been proven that there's a significant amount of non-effect. Maybe that's the worst way of describing it, but perhaps, and that's why that's been decided. And if that's the case, I'll come back to my skirted on the fence answer from before.
You can do a whole podcast on this. Wow, we just find stuff every week.
If someone came and won a show in BNBF or any other federation that has 7 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, and they stopped using a banned substance, however many years, and 1 day after they win the show, and they're allowed to compete and win it, and they do, then for me, there is no issue whatsoever. But other people would have a problem with that, I think. Do you know what I mean? I think other people would think, well, okay, well, and I think, and what I was trying to say with the natty high horse thing, it's everyone has got their own different opinions on why you don't go assisted or whatever. I'm sure people would say to me and you, is why are you guys such big bodybuilding fans? I am a bigger IFBB fan than I am a natural bodybuilding fan.
Yeah.
I'll say we are so excited for the IFBB Tampa Pro next week because there's not been bodybuilding for ever, but at the same time we both compete naturally. So people are like, why do you do this natural bodybuilding if you don't? And everyone's got their own reasons. Some people might be moral, some people might be health, this, that, and the other. But I don't think it matters. It just doesn't matter. It's.
Do you know the last show we talked about was the Arnold Classic, Ohio? Like in person, I don't think we even started the podcast by then, did we? No, we hadn't.
No. Well, I guess
more than 18 weeks ago. It was the start of March, wasn't it?
Yeah. So all right, let's move on now because perhaps I think you're right. I think we could literally speak for the rest of this podcast about. I think we're long overdue. Maybe not next week because we've got a show to talk about next week. But the episode 20 milestone, episode 20 of NMR, we will do the enhanced versus natty debate and what it means and just everything about it, because I think it would be good to talk about it because we've got a unique view on it because we're not riding in on our natural high horse. It's
can make one in the garden for you again if you want.
Please. We're gonna meet
2 benches, a stag's head, and whatever else I had, a band for my what's it called?
Is that in your living room? Is that what that is? A stag's head?
It's not a stag.
It's petrifying.
It's more like I don't actually know what it is.
Can you show it?
It's not a ram. I've looked it up before.
I really think.
Can you remember what a Stella is? It's not a stag. It's not.
I think the fans
like that.
People are screaming at the screen now because they want to see it.
Let me see it. Let me just see Stella. So we thought it was Stella the stag, but it's definitely not a stag because it has. Just Google animal with 2 horns. See what comes up.
I mean, there's a few, isn't there?
Google it, damn it.
Okay. So we've established it's not a unicorn then.
That's not a unicorn, no.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
Look at his eyes. So scary.
It's petrifying.
See, these are 2 horns. That's not a stag's head. So
how do you sit in that room with that staring at you? I'd have to turn it facing the other way.
Yeah, well, I get to watch telly most of the time.
Okay. With your loud candle.
Oh, it might be an antelope. It would begin with A.
Okay.
You need to call it something else instead then, not Stella.
Okay. All right. So, sorry, I just felt everyone needed to see that. Yes, so you pointed out that pre-podcast, we broke down the Arnold Classic because remember I slagged off Steve Lawrence' back in the early days. Right, I'm glad okay, great. So antelope, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
The horns are still a bit small. I mean, I'm sure someone else, if you want to find out what that is or you know what it is, if you're an animal expert, please comment below.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I look forward to the floods of...
Stella is, that'd be great.
Yeah. Wicked. Right then, so what I just said to you was that we did break down the Arnold Classic because I slagged off Steve Lawrence' back.
So we did, yeah.
Still not given a public apology, Steve Lawrence. But it seems like he's not that arsed, really, that I think he's got a shit back.
Yeah.
So funny, actually, a video come up on YouTube the other day, and it was Steve Lawrence 5 ways to improve your back, and I thought, ooh.
What are you lying for?
Probably not going to watch that video. Here's one for you. Okay. Is it a waste of time to get advice off somebody that's got naturally a good body part on how to bring up that body part? So is it better to watch a Steve Lawrence video who's got a shit back with his 5 ways to bring up his back because he's found a way and next time he steps on stage, you might have this incredible, dense Dorian Yates-esque back. Or do you watch Jay Cutler Delt's video when actually just wide and probably jimmied anyway? So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think I've said it before, haven't I? It's like, don't get advice from someone who's got genetically good body parts, because they, you know, like, I can just go and train arms like for fluff and they'll grow anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe someone who's renowned for not having a good body part and then it improves a lot.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's like the old, you know, Branch Warren argument. You think, right, how has he got such a thick chest and then he's doing like this? Everything about it is like, no, but yeah, it definitely works. Probably one of the best chests ever.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, so I mean, what do we actually say we're going to be speaking about this week? I know we're 40 minutes in, but we were going to be talking about shows, weren't we?
Yeah, right. So just before we move on then, we wanted to say that we're excited about the Tampa Pro, and that next week we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to learn in a week with the help of maybe James to put some pictures on the screen, and we'll do a little bit of a breakdown. Ian Valier versus Hunter Labrada. So tune in if you're bothered about that.
When is the show? Saturday, Sunday?
I'm talking about how excited I am about it. I don't know. It's probably Saturday. Then the RPB normally in America does Saturday.
The reason why I asked that was because, are you Team Hunter or are you Team Ian Valier?
Team Hunter.
Oh, yeah, that's great because I'm Team Ian.
Okay.
Gentleman's bet. What are we going to bet?
Oh, this
protein bar from your selection. No,
I will keep this if. Oh, okay. A protein bar from my selection. I'd have to buy one then.
Well, of course, buy me a decent one then.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I want you to order me. It's got to be equivalent value as well.
Oh, hang on a minute. Are we? Is the bet on? I guess the bet is on who wins.
Of course. Yeah.
Now you said, am I Team Hunter or Team Ian? I'm Team Hunter, but I think Ian will win.
Oh no! That's why I said what team are you? So you can stick with your answer now.
I can support.
You can't just change your opinion because you like to say what I like.
I'm going to be down the protein bar now. Jeez. All right. Okay. Yeah. I've got Team Hunter yet.
As I said, I just think that Ian is a better version of Hunter. But saying that, I've been very, I wouldn't say unimpressed because I'm not unimpressed. Hunter's physique is great, but it's only really the last set of check-in pictures that he put up where I was very impressed. I was like, shit, because he's more streamlined than he was because he is been coming down. I can see that you're Googling Hunter Labrada's pictures or going on his Instagram or whatever. The last set of pictures, whether they're, Instagram filtered or not, but even his midsection's better.
He looks that.
And you know he's going to peak well. Yeah. We're so technical. It's crazy.
That's almost like a Flex Lewis-esque rear double as well. Ooh.
Yeah, that's better. Yes, it is. It's like that hasn't been that tight for a long time. The other pictures, he's almost look a little bit blocky.
Yeah, he has. It's funny because he's not. I don't think he's got a wide waist. It's just it was a little bit straight up and down, maybe to where his quad's inserted at the top of his hip. But that looks a lot better. His waist has come in there a lot. So
he's made tons of improvements since he turned pro. Like when he turned pro, it was like he was never doing nothing, and then like now you see that. He very much could be in the Olympia because he's American. If anyone knows what we're talking about, it's because of the whole visa situation, which shows it may very well much be an American or at least an American citizen lineup. So Flex Lewis lives in America. So
he does.
So cheers, Team GB, for showing up and winning the Olympia. I'm
pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about that, to be honest, because I'm Team Flex.
Yeah, so no Ramy, no Bonac, no Rowley.
Yeah, Haddy, definitely no Haddy.
No Haddy, did not let him anyway.
So, if you remember at the beginning of 2020, pre-coronavirus, the concern was World War III with Iran. So I'm pretty sure that's off anyway.
I love that video of Hadi coming back. He came third at the Olympia, and him returning to Iran was jokes. It was like the 1966 World Cup winners bus top coming home to the UK, and everyone meeting him like they're like gathering in the streets, and it was just awful because he'd won a bodybuilding show. Because bodybuilding over there is like football is over here.
Okay, yes, bodybuilding over there is like football. Any sport that anyone from Iran is good at is like football.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if they have someone that's good at anything, then that's it. It's like Bobby Charlton 66. It's yeah. That's the real thing.
Oh yeah, I love how we laugh at our own jokes so much.
What about favorite? I know about all keen viewers that like our format of rambling for 30 minutes and then having a topic. Don't be complaining that we're 17 minutes over that point, because we'll get to something. But can we just point out that the idea behind this podcast 4 months ago is that we'd talk a bit of shit, we'd have an interesting talking point, but primarily we'd kind of do heavy muscle radio, hence the Natty Muscle Radio, and we'd talk about shows and bodybuilders and things that were coming on. We've had to fill for 4 months and 18 podcasts without any bodybuilding shows. So please allow us to divulge in the excitement of a pre-show week. So my last question on this then: favorite video, Hadi returning to Iran, winning, or Hani Rambod waiting for Hadi when he didn't know if he was going to get through. And if you don't know what we're on about, Google. It's on the Evagene Nutrition YouTube, and it was when Hani Rambod was picking up Hadi Chupin from customs when he was landing in America, having getting his visa granted. It's incredible. Oh man, yeah.
Waiting for him to get through, but that's what I just love about bodybuilding. There's no prejudice with it. Well, they may have been back in the day, but like all the fans want to see Hadi do well, and it's like, okay, so the American guys are like, well, we want to see Hadi turn up like peeled and massive and beat some names, because it's like, you know, he's a freak and deserves to do well in a show, and that just goes to show it's like, regardless of your kind of stature, where you're from, like if you look that good, you're gonna do all right. You know,
I think so. I think that's a good thing to mention, actually, in all the craziness that's going on in the world. That actually, I think bodybuilding sits nicely in the middle with that, doesn't it? It's like I can't speak about something that I don't have experience of, but from what I've seen, certainly in the organisations I've competed in, and for the friends I have and the people that are involved, it is, you're right. It's, you're awarded because you're a great bodybuilder. And that's fucking cool. So
it is, indeed it is. So we were going to talk this week on shows a little bit, which we kind of covered really. I guess it's not a whole podcast topic really.
And it's going to develop, isn't it, week by week now? So we'll mention it each week, and we'll keep keen viewers abreast of developments, like almost like we're our only knowledge weekly, and Instagram doesn't exist.
Yeah, like the old days.
The old days.
So, what else we were going to talk about was, I guess this is bodybuilding first world problems, or prep pitfalls, or bodybuilding mind games. I know you put it all into one category.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the insight is your idea was to talk about cheating on your diet, right? And I feel like that is encapsulated in a wider fucking up on your diet, or losing your head on your diet, or and then, as you said, like prep first world problems. So the kind of things that maybe aren't that important that you worry about on prep. And for me, it's relevant this week because we've got some friends that are prepping. Oh, see ya. This is where Rob leaves in the podcast, because what 18 episodes in, 18 episodes and 20 actual podcasts, Rob has failed to realise that around about this time, the natural light that he had coming through his window no longer exists. And so we have to have a light show part way through. Is that
It's
not?
darker and darker and darker, and then
Yeah.
The face looks more.
Unlucky. That's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty drawn. Actually, that's pretty.
What's good actually is like Claire laughs is that sometimes on YouTube when you flick through and you can see the episodes where it popped up like episode 2 or whatever. I've got a big moon face. So I've definitely lost more than £3 since these 18 weeks have gone on. So
when we're inevitably doing this podcast in several years, and we've been through cycles of you competing, me competing, it'd be interesting to see the difference in faces. We could do like a time lapse.
Yes, definitely.
Faces. Right. So anyway, people being pussies on prep. No, not really. A few of our friends, and not least yourself, had a week this week where kind of maybe the mind games come in, or you kind of question whether you're doing the right thing, or where you question whether you're where you need to be, and all those kind of things. So we thought we'd talk about pitfalls and that kind of thing on prep.
Let's kick it off with first of all then. So the typical mind games during a prep at probably all levels, this must exist, I would have thought, because I've had a guy who trains over at Shreds, very good men's physique competitor, and he is being prepped by JP's on the athlete page. That's Hader. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's great, but he's like, also like this time round, like not as lean as he usually is this time round on purpose, because he's always shredded. Yeah. So I think purposely, like whether it be JP's holding his food back or trying to keep him a bit fuller or not kind of being as aggressive at this point. And I can't speak details because I don't know enough, I guess, really, what's going on with the where his prep is. But everyone's the same when it comes to that. So if you're always used to being very, very lean, and you're maybe a little bit not quite as lean as you usually are expected to be at this far out, it can massively mess with your head. So he's constantly thinking, I'm usually way further in this ahead. I just said, well, like, look, you've got to look at it this way. If you're always ready and always in condition, like, why are you worried? Because in the day, if he's holding your food back or making changes slower, if you can get ready for a show in 6 weeks, then you don't need to be ready at 6 weeks out. So, it's almost detrimental that last 6 weeks or so. So where I was a few weeks back, so I've had a good week this week, but the week before, it's just that constant thing of like, am I ever going to make this or what? Like, what's going on, And then the difference of 24 hours sometimes, you put your positive head on and, you get up and do your cardio and you look a bit better the next day, But I think everyone, maybe there's a certain point of time out from a show, maybe 6 weeks, where it suddenly feels like, shit, I've been dieting maybe 10 weeks or longer already. And I'm worried 6 weeks, but 6 weeks in dieting terms is a long time.
Yeah.
And you change an awful lot in 6 weeks, even if you don't really do much with your diet in 6 weeks, like you can really just change anyway. So I guess that the point of all this, I guess what we kind of want to talk about is like when your head falls off, like, I guess, what's the number of things that you've seen, like, what causes that? Like, what's the issues usually?
I think the biggest issue, and this definitely wouldn't have been accessible to competitors, say, I don't know, definitely 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, is social media and being able to see the people that you may or may not be competing with. So you see somebody that says, so you're 6 weeks out, and then you're scrolling through and you see someone who you think, oh, Jesus, look at them, incredible, great shape, shredded, wow. And the caption is 6 weeks out. and you go, shit, you mean that this guy doing the same, and that just starts the mind, and you suddenly in your head you look shit, and everything that you've told yourself prior to that point, everyone else, and everything you know, does not matter. Yeah, and it doesn't, and you can't snap out of it either. You know, you can tell people, "Oh, it's fine. You look great. You know, don't worry about this person, that person. It doesn't matter." You can't snap out of it at that point. And I think that it's not something that people can ever get accustomed to, because previously we wouldn't have seen that. So that's a big thing. But what I would add to that as well is a chat with one of our friends that's competing this week about this. Is he said to me, he was feeling down, and he was questioning whether he'd made enough improvements in the off season, whether he was where he needed to be now, and he'd seen another competitor, and he thought, "Oh God, this person's more, just generally better than I am." And then he said to me, "I said I wouldn't allow this to happen. I said I wouldn't let my head fall off on a prep like it did last time." And I said, that's one of your problems as well. Because if you think that you're going to go through a prep and every day is like roses, and you're going to think you're exactly where you need to be, and you're not going to question anything, and then when that happens, inevitably, because you've mentioned that you had a wobble, and a lot of people look up to you as a competitor, so if you're saying that, then crying out loud, it happens to everybody. But then if you double down on that and give yourself more shit because you said you wouldn't let your head fall off, it is just in a complete vicious cycle. So you had to almost accept that the head falling off and having mind games, being concerned about other competitors and am I fat, am I small, am I going to be ready, that's as much a part of it as being hungry and doing your cardio and practicing your posing. It's learning how to accept and deal with those mind games, and you'll get better at it, but you'll always have it. And that might even be backstage. You might see someone pumping up that you think looks better than you. It's learning how to deal with that and learning how to accept it and not beat yourself up further on it. And that's only something I realised this week, actually, when this person said that to me.
Yeah, I mean, so talking backstage, I mean, you can look at people and think they look great backstage, look massive or whatever, and then you can also go backstage and people look like absolute nothing, and then they get on stage and they just pop and structure flows, and that's why bodybuilding is such a weird anomaly like that. Like, you can have people who just look tiny rubbish off stage in a jumper pumping up, whatever, and then on stage you can't believe it's the same guy because their waist is micro and their legs aren't that big. But when obviously they've got the detail in the right areas, they really can look very, very good. So
and posing, things like posing. You see someone backstage and you think, it goes both ways. You think, I'm gonna fucking blast this guy, and then because I've got bigger legs, or this and the other, but they know exactly how to stand and pose to the judges and make everything look the way it's meant to. Likewise, you might see someone and think, fucking size of this guy, look how peeled this guy is, but they can't present the physique. So it doesn't matter. On the social media thing, and you get a lot of people saying that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and that can kind of get into just the wider bodybuilding population's head. And I was at a show last year when I competed at the Central last year, and there was people backstage telling me that there was a competitor coming up in a few weeks that was so good that he was going to win the lot. He was going to win his class, and then he was just going to be a force to reckon with. And he was in such good condition; it was incredible. And inevitably, that didn't happen. That person wasn't where they needed to be. And I just thought it was funny, and I always think back on it because.
Are you talking about yourself? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I look like a right mug. But no, I just thought it's funny because I thought, like, people had already decided that someone was going to win a show weeks before the actual show based on what they'd seen on social media. And, we said it we said it a lot last year. You don't win a show 10 weeks out. You don't win it a week out. You don't win it the morning of a show. You win it on the stage. And that's important for people who think that they are winning the show at 10 weeks out. That's important for them to realise that that's not the case. But also important for people that may be losing their head and being affected by people that are posting, and they think that this person in 10 weeks' time is going to beat me. You know, it's in your hands. You can do, if you think someone is better than you at 10 weeks out, then it's up to you to make sure that you're better than them in 10 weeks' time. You don't lose your head on it.
I wonder, as I said, there's exceptions to the rules. So the first story is when the Polaroids got sent out of the black and white pictures of Dorian Yates.
Yeah. Was that the first time? Was that the first time that this really happened?
They posted that in the Flex magazine, and everyone went, I think I'm coming second, so never mind. So that's an exception to the rule when you've got someone who looks that ridiculous. But also, I mean, you probably had some of their competitors and stuff, though, who like still probably thought he was beatable. Even though he looked absolutely ridiculous, they probably still thought like, well, maybe they didn't in that case. So there's that. What else was I going to say? I can't remember what the other point was now. Never mind, diet brain.
Yeah, okay, but let's. So, all right, we've established that that's one of the main reasons why people's heads falls off at this point, because I think it is. I think it's the overarching one, because that trigger is that you see somebody that you think is going to be better than you, or you look at the time you've got and you think, oh, okay. But bringing it round to the ways that people might lose their head and fall off the prep and the diet, bring it round to the kind of original talking point that you were looking at, and that was, you said, cheating on your diet. And that's why I kind of wanted to tie it in with this, because I thought it was interesting, because you'll have people who fall off the diet because they lose their head and they might decide to cheat, and what kind of that means for a prep in that at that moment, you know.
It all depends on the circumstances of how far out you can do it to what you can get away with. And I'm not sure if we spoke about this, but what happens is, obviously, like, let's say people do cheat on the diet for whatever reason, can't deal with the hunger, feel like they're so far ahead they can get away with it. Some people maybe it's like, oh wow, it doesn't really touch the side, so I'm going to say I'm fine. Look in the mirror, you know, most muscular, yeah, doesn't touch me, I'll have another one. You know, it's that kind of thing, you know, can just get away with it. But I think it's hard in that scenario. I don't think there's many people who maybe look at other competitors and worry that they're a lot better than they are, and therefore then cheat on the diet. I don't think that scenario happens very often. I think it's when you, one, get complacent because you think like you're all right on track, and then it's like, I'm pretty lean, my mates told me I'm lean, I've looked good in the gym today, definitely have a cheeseburger. So like,
I can always talk myself into a cheeseburger. It's pretty
standard procedure. So like, there's that scenario. I think that having things maybe like after a show and you've got another show to go to, and then you can't stop. Maybe Pringles, I don't know, can't stop.
Oh, crying into Oreos. You remember that story?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, crying into. I remember Baz telling me one about that, and he bought some cereal and cried just from some cereal because he couldn't eat it. It's just obviously prep hormones, I guess, really. But yeah, I think that there's a number of reasons why I guess people cheat on the diet. And I guess in the end of the day, you're only human. But like, I think like, especially this week with the shows being put back, that was definitely a trigger for some clients this week. And nothing outrageous. You know, nothing outrageous. It might have been like a Nando's or something, or they've taken their girlfriend out or whatever, because they've just justified in their head, got 5 more weeks. So why can't I have a cheat meal? But the fact is, it's like, you know, that time's only going to like done them good. It means that they don't have to ramp things down as quickly as they would have had to have done.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it does hurt. Some people it's like, you know, they were going to be like, you know, within striking distance in a few weeks, and then it's like, okay, like Lewis, who I'm competing against, he's about 3 or 4 kilos off, and he almost doesn't need that extra time. Whereas for me, it just helps me out because I know I'm going to be even better. So I think that, you know, as I said, it's like the triggers of why it happens. I think some people can just like, it can be another thing, it can be like an injury might set it off.
Yeah.
Like you get injured and it's like, right, well, screw this. And then you maybe have a couple of meals and it's like, oh, I regret doing that. But I think the point I wanted to make from it is that, you know, you can, it's a case of like realizing what you can get away with. And in reality, as I said, what it does to you mentally is more the issue.
Mm.
Because, okay, we know with the way that flexible dieting works and things like that, like, you know, okay, all foods aren't almost created equally and some have a different effect on the body or whatever. But you could have something on your diet, and you could then go to the show, think you look really, really good, and you come in second because the other guy was just better than you was. And you actually look pretty damn good. But in the back of your head, are you going to be thinking, shouldn't have had that?
Mm.
Because, you know, and it's the problem I found with the coach this side this week, as in from coaching people, it's that whole thing of like not telling their coach. It was a 3-day thing before they plucked up the courage to say, I'm really sorry, but I've fucked up this week and my head's fallen off because I've got an extra 5 weeks and I wanted to go away with my missus that week and now I can't, now the show's been affected. So like there's a number of things I said, like, you know, it's cool, like we can sort it. But then as I said, there's a number of things mentally, which it's that, I think the worst thing about it is that whole guilt thing that's associated with it. And this probably comes into eating disorders and stuff as well.
Mm.
You know, you like, I know that would be more of like that, you know, if I've been on prep in the past and prep for a long, long time, like started, you know, prep back in January, and then March time, I'd already planned to go away for, not this year, but a couple of years back, shows in September, but in March, I'm going to a wedding and I end up drinking at the wedding. It's that whole, you know, drinking and eating. It's like, I shouldn't be doing it because I'm on prep, but it's this far out that I can probably get away with it.
Mm.
That is the whole guilt side of it. So like having a cheat meal and stuff, which is the real thing that probably messes you up more than the actual meal itself.
It's funny. This is what I wanted to point out, is because as a coach, you've got a client doing BMBF British finals in what, maybe 15, 16 weeks. No. So let's say, so client is doing really good and client could be ready based on the original kind of date. Let's say client could have been ready in 8. So you kind of had like a 2-week buffer anyway with this client. And now they've got like this extra 7 weeks essentially, really, that they can be ready in. And the same, you know, thing happens and they decide they're going to go out for a meal with their other half or whatever. They eat cheeseburger, cheesecake, something with cheese probably, because cheese is great.
Nuts.
Not cheese. Don't. And then okay, they do that, and then they prep and they look great, and they couldn't have been any better, and they come second in the show, and they have that question if they could have come first. You know at the time that this client that, you know, isn't behind already, that cheat meal isn't going to have an effect down the line. You know that, and you know, and you will be able to tell them that, you know, coming off stage, that meal that you had didn't make a difference, because, you know, you still did what you needed to do to get to that point. But it is that mind game, isn't it? Again, of did I do something?
Have I have done more is the thing that you never want to ask yourself at the end of a show. Like I can guarantee any show that I've done well in, or maybe ones that I've done second in, you know, British finals 2009 and 10, and I put my heart and soul into the prep, and I walked away from them shows going, I couldn't have done it anymore, so it's okay. And you're actually all right with the fact you've come second because you couldn't have done it anymore. But I've never actually won a show where I fucking half-assed it, or like I've come, where was that? I've like maybe done shows where it's like I came last, but that's because I dieted like I should have come last and thought I knew everything. So it's like, right, okay, well, you've half-assed it, so therefore that's what you deserve.
I have to think then that, you know, there's a differentiation, isn't there? Because a client that is in a great spot and has a cheat meal because at this point, because shows have been put back and they're like another 5 weeks, I was nearly ready anyway. That client, you know, let's say they may have been doing a qualifier this weekend and had a cheat meal afterwards anyway. So it's no different. You know, it's no different at all. I think that
they're not in that position. That's the difference.
Yeah, no. But I just think that the client that does have the cheat meal and then thinks to themselves, I could have done more. I don't think that's the thing, that they could have done more. I think that there's other things then. You know, I think if you really ask yourself after something, whether it be a show, whether it be work or anything really that you could have done more in, there's probably always going to be more than one thing, right? You know, because like you said, those shows that you did well in, you were positive that there was not a stone unturned. You know, everything you left, your heart on your sleeve. But in reality, the half-arsing comes down to there was probably more than one thing. And if there was more than one thing, you probably weren't fully in it anyway, and therefore the guilt doesn't really apply. You know, but for the people that are concerned about if they fell off this week a little bit, and equally whether they fell off because they lost their head because they seen somebody else that looked better, or they fell off because they had a meal. The question is, how do you get back on to make sure that when you do come back off stage, that even if you come second, that you know that little wobble, that cheat meal, that week where you felt sorry for yourself, so you missed a couple of cardio sessions, that didn't actually have an effect. And I think that's just part of getting your head back on, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I think we all deal with it in different ways, don't we? And as I said, I think what's important, provided it depends what your coach is like. I know from me that you're upfront about it, because you can't fix it. Like I said, the classic thing I've seen with clients is that binging and then trying to lowball carbs to compensate, you always end up with this terrible kind of flat spilled look.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you've done it, but this week, what's gone on? Because you look like you've eaten some stuff that you shouldn't have, and then you've not eaten for a day, and they've gone, it's kind of what I did.
That's exactly what I did.
So it's like a flat and spilled special.
Oh.
So it's like the worst two of the combination. So as I said, what's important is that you tell your coach about it, because if your coach is logical, like I've had clients conversations with this weekend, I'm like, it's not the end of the world. What's important is that we understand why it's happening.
Yeah.
Why have you like gone into that shop, bought those bag of Doritos, paid the guy, walked out and sat in your car and ate them? Like, you've got through this whole process.
Yeah.
One came past in the air, and you've gone, oh, and I've eaten this. Like, you've gone through that. You've gone through that. That's what I always find when people order like takeaways. It's like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Well, just give me a large Domino's. And then you then had to go and pick it up. You got to go and eat it.
Oh, you say, yeah.
I always find that's always like the funny one. It's like you just like come across something and you like, you know, it's not very often that people like, oh, well, I was just, you know, sitting around with mum's and dad's, and all of a sudden, like, I just had like cheeseburgers. It's like you have to go to the effort to kind of shoot your diet. But anyway, what I was getting around to is that the most important thing is that you talk about why it's happened. 2, like, is it fixable? 99% of the time, yes, providing how far you are. If you cheat on your diet the day before the show, then yeah, you can definitely alter the way you look. So your coach should be rational about that. But I also think, like, for me, from a coaching standpoint, it's like, look, this is fixable, but ultimately it doesn't make a difference to me, because if you want to cheat on your diet, you've got to stand on stage. You've got to be the one who's got to know there and go, like, oh, I've cheated on my diet and I could have done better. I could have looked better.
Is that I'm not angry, I'm disappointed?
Yes, it's very much that. Because it's not even that good. Like, I'm even disappointed. I'm just like, it's your show. Like,
I'm not angry, I'm not asked.
Because at the end of the day, as I said, it's all down to that person on, like, they only have to put that effort in. And instead, if you put in less effort, and if I'm not doing it, I don't expect you to do it. And that's my philosophy for a lot of things. Like, you know, if my head's falling up and stuff, it's better than people's falling heads, but I don't then go and, like, bury myself in, you know, a bag of Chinese chicken balls or something.
Okay. And that's the kind of point I was trying to make between the person that, in this very unusual situation that we find ourselves in. You know, I commend anyone that's been prepping during this now. Yourself, Dan North, Chris Edge, and anybody else that has been prepping without a gym, not knowing if there's shows. You know, we're still kind of on an unknown, because, you know, they have to hand it to all of the federations in this country that are still ploughing on with, you know, we're going to put an event on at this day, and they don't know, and it costs federations money to do this. You know, have to book venues, and they have to feel for the venues, and it's a whole other thing. But I still attest by the people that are looking back at themselves after they've stepped off stage and thinking that they should have done more. It's not that one thing that they did 7 weeks ago that they actually did speak to the coach about, and they actually spoke about why they did it, and there was a reason, Kate, and you say, all right, you shouldn't have done it, but I know why I did it, and it definitely won't happen again, and my head is on, and this, that, and the other, versus the person that, like you said, just accidentally flew past a Dorito or phoned Papa John's 3 times that week. They're doing more than one thing, and they can look back and think, oh yeah, I didn't do everything, and should really think, okay, yeah, I'm not going to, I've not merited sort of giving myself shit because I didn't do everything, because it was my choice to not do everything. I chose to cheat and I chose to do these things. But if you have that one wobble, that one head falls off, so you eat the cheat meal, or you manifest it in any other way, if you can get through it, and like you say it's 99.9% fixable, which means essentially it's had no effect, then you shouldn't be hard on yourself in the moment and at the end either. You know, yeah. There's times when you might have been doing a workout on prep and you drop a rep or two because you can't push the weight anymore. You probably could have done that extra exercise, but you were so spent that you left the gym. You know, okay, did you maybe one time you were on the Stairmaster and you had 20 minutes and you're counting down 3, 2, 1, and you press it because your eyes just want to fucking get off this thing, and it says 1959, and you go, yeah, but it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So are you gonna go, okay, well, I didn't do that 1 second, when, you know, so it's difficult to quantify whether. I
said it's little things like that, and I think that, you know, like the whole cheating on your diet thing. I mean, it's a whole nother. As I said, you can get into the realms of it feeling like you've really done something bad, and you can really beat yourself up about it. But as I said, I think that if you are being prepped by someone, then, you know, the important thing is to discuss it, because it's like, you know, as I said, you can fix it, you know, provided you've got the time to. But ultimately, as I said, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the fact that, you know, I always say, like, do you think your competitors are, like, you know, they're probably not cheating on the diet? It's probably why the guy you've been worried about on Instagram for 6 weeks is probably not cheating on his diet. And that's why he looks so shredded.
Yeah.
But never mind, you know, it's one of them. But yeah, so I guess we can go into it, I guess deeper and deeper and deeper, kind of really. But I mean, it's just like it's one of the main things I think, like with your head falling off, that it's as I said, you can fix it. It's probably not as a big a deal, especially I think now being this far down the line with competing. Right. Very much the first show prep you ever do, you probably find everyone adheres to the plan to a T when they first start the show.
Yeah.
They go crazy if someone offers them an almond because I'm on prep. But then down the line you're like, I'll eat that almond and then I'll do an extra 2 seconds on step now. So yeah. Yes. Not much to add on that.
No, that's kind of that's why I wanted to tie it in with your head falling off, because I think for the people that's head actually falls off because they are working hard and they're invested in the prep actually, because your head only falls off if you're that bothered about the prep that it would affect you, right? If you're not bothered and you're cheating willy-nilly and you're this and you're that and you're slacking elsewhere, and then you look back and you think, I could have done better, your head's not going to fall off because it wasn't on in the first place.
Yeah.
But to people who this matters to, and we spoke earlier in the podcast about the likes of Rich and Max, who have got that great balance of like when they're on, when they're not, they're not. But it still means something to them. There's a reason why they put time and effort into it. And so I'm sure that they have wobbles. I'm sure they have times when they think I'm not doing well, but only because it means something to them. So if you are experiencing that, and if it manifests as just feeling down, or that manifests as you cheated on your diet, acknowledge the fact that you're bothered because it means something to you. So it should equally mean something to you to get back on it, rectify it, and still be your best. And the guys that aren't bothered, them don't give a fuck about it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I think it's easily fixable. If I just delete my Instagram account, because that's the only reason I compete anymore, just for Instagram. So.
Okay.
Someone actually said that in the gym this week. We were training behind closed doors, and one of the workmen said to the guys, like, "Wow, you're lifting all that weight. That's amazing." He's like, "Yeah, but I only do this for Instagram anyway, so I'm not even bothered about as long as I upload this, it's all people want to see."
Interesting. All right.
Here's Instagram. So as we said, we would be bodybuilding if there was no Instagram, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100% purists.
Yeah, we'd be still reading Muscular Development monthly.
Wearing T-shirts with holes in.
Yeah. Being bodybuilders.
Yes. So on that note, I think we could go in more and more stuff on it, but we must be getting on for time. What are we? Hour and 26 minutes.
Wicked. I'd be happy if I started a podcast and that's how long it was, because you alluded to the fact that you're that disappointment when your favourite podcast comes on and it's like less than an hour and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
What happened this week? Like,
one cardio session at the moment. Rubbish.
So still here for all you cardio bunnies.
Yeah, exactly. We do need a meme for the week, and just wanted to say before we go, shout out to Mark Hodson, who actually sent me the idea for the meme last week. So if you've got any memes that you would like to see or you like off, please inbox either of us, and then we'll give you a shout out on the podcast.
Wicked. Sweet. All right, I think that's a good point to end on. So Natty Muscle Radio.
There's always another level.
There is. See you later.